abyss beckons with a chilling call. Come closer, listen to the shadows draw. So subscribe and like, and don't be afraid to dive into the darkness where the shadows are laid. Tales from the shadows will spook your world. Join us on this journey, let your fears unfurl. Stay tuned, stay weird, and watch out for what lurks in the shadows.
Welcome, friends, to the dark and the deep, where whispers linger and shadows creep. Tales from the shadows, where legends arise, with ghostly stories and myths that mesmerize. We continue our tale, picking up right where we left off. The following morning at Valhalla Prep dawned bright and clear, yet the air buzzed with tension. Denny awoke early, the anticipation of training lingering in his mind. As he arrived at the training ground, Celine and Eric were already waiting, deep in discussion. "We need to devise a strategy that will allow us to anticipate Loki's moves," Celine said, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Agreed," Eric replied, twirling one of his daggers absent-mindedly. "But we also need to be prepared for the possibility that he might use others to manipulate us. We can't let our guard down." Denny joined them, nodding in agreement. "Loki is a master of deception. We have to be ready for anything. What if we create a few decoys or traps of our own? Something to distract him or draw him out?" Celine's eyes lit up at the suggestion. "That could work. If we can keep him guessing, it might give us the edge we need." Their strategy session was interrupted by Helga's arrival. "Good morning, warriors," she called, her voice echoing across the training grounds. "I trust you've been preparing for the challenges ahead?" "We're working on a plan to counter Loki's tricks," Denny replied, excitement in his tone. "We want to use decoys and traps to outsmart him." Helga's expression shifted from one of amusement to seriousness. "That is wise, Denny. Loki thrives on chaos and confusion. The more you can control the battlefield, the better your chances. But remember, he is cunning and may not be easily fooled." "Right," Eric said, gripping his daggers tighter. "We need to stay vigilant." "Then let's put your strategy to the test," Helga proposed. "Today, we'll simulate an encounter with Loki once more. This time, I will play the role of Loki. Prepare yourselves for a true test of your skills." Denny's heart raced at the challenge. This was precisely what they needed. He gathered his friends, who began creating their decoys and traps. Once everything was set, they took their positions, the excitement palpable in the air. "Stay alert," Denny reminded them, positioning himself at the forefront. Helga stepped into the arena, her posture shifting as she embraced Loki's persona. She wore an amused smile, and her eyes sparkled with mischief. "Well, well, look at the little heroes, thinking you can outsmart me," she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Don't underestimate us, Loki," Denny shouted, gripping Gungnir tightly. With that, the simulation began. Helga immediately employed illusions, creating multiple copies of herself that flanked Denny and his friends. "Which one is the real Loki?" she taunted. "Confusing." "Stay focused," Celine shouted, her bow at the ready. "Target the center one." Denny could feel the chaos unfurling around them, but he remembered Helga's advice. He glanced at Eric, who was preparing to throw one of his daggers at one of the illusions. "Wait," Denny called. "Let's see if we can draw the real Loki out first." Celine nodded, adjusting her aim. "We need to create a distraction. I can shoot an arrow near the edge of the training field to draw attention." "Do it," Denny urged, feeling the intensity build. As Celine released her arrow, it soared through the air, striking the ground outside the field. "Now," Denny shouted, charging forward with Gungnir. He focused on the center illusion, his instincts guiding him. He slashed through the air swiftly, hoping to disrupt the illusion's stability. The moment his blade made contact, the illusion flickered and vanished. But just as quickly, Helga's proper form appeared behind him, laughing. "Clever, but not clever enough." Denny pivoted, Gungnir raised, but she was fast, launching a wave of chaos magic that sent him stumbling back. "Regroup," Eric called, quickly rushing to Denny's side. "We need to think strategically." Denny nodded, shaking off the disorientation. "We need to find a way to contain her. Celine, can you create a barrier?" "On it," Celine replied, focusing her energy. She knocked another arrow, aiming to create a wall of energy that would block Loki's advances. As the barrier shimmered into existence, Denny and Eric positioned themselves behind it. "Now!" Denny shouted, feeling the energy of Gungnir surge within him. "Let's take back control." With renewed determination, they coordinated their attacks, striking against the illusions surrounding them. Finally, as the battle peaked, Denny managed to break through the illusions, facing Helga head-on. "You think you can distract us with your tricks, Loki?" he called out. "We know who we are." At that moment, he channeled the power of Gungnir, directing it toward Helga. A bolt of energy shot forth, striking the barrier and dispelling the remaining illusions. Helga transformed into her true self with a triumphant laugh, her face lighting up with pride. "Impressive, Denny. You have harnessed your strength and the power of your friends." As the simulation concluded, Denny felt a rush of accomplishment. They had faced a formidable foe together and emerged victorious. Once the training was complete, Denny and his friends gathered to discuss the experience. "That was amazing!" Eric exclaimed, panting. "Yeah, and I think we learned a lot about working together," Celine added, her eyes sparkling. "We have to keep building on this." But as they celebrated their success, a lingering thought nagged at Denny's mind. What else was Loki planning? Later that evening, after dinner, Denny decided to take a walk around the training grounds to clear his head. The moon hung high in the sky, casting a silvery glow over the area. He found himself drawn to the weapons training room, where the gleam of Gungnir reflected in the light. As he entered, a sudden noise caught his attention, a faint whispering coming from the corner of the room. Curiosity piqued. He approached and discovered a small, ornate chest hidden beneath a training table. Its surface was engraved with intricate designs that seemed to pulse with energy. Denny knelt beside the chest, his heart racing. He couldn't resist the temptation to open it. With a deep breath, he lifted the lid, revealing a shimmering dagger inside. As he picked it up, a rush of energy surged through him, and he heard a low and influential voice in his mind. To wield the weapon of a god is to understand its purpose. Startled, Denny glanced around, ensuring he was alone. The dagger felt alive in his hand, vibrating with a sense of history and power. He quickly realized this wasn't just a weapon. It was a gift from Odin, left for him to discover when the time was right. "What does this mean?" he whispered, studying the blade. He knew this dagger could change everything. With Gungnir in one hand and the newfound dagger in the other, Denny felt a deep sense of responsibility. This was not just about him anymore. It was the battle against Loki and protecting everything he cared about. Denny tucked the dagger into his belt and left the training room, determination burning. Whatever Loki had planned, he would be ready to confront it. As he stepped outside into the cool night air, he looked up at the stars, feeling the weight of his destiny. Loki was cunning, but he had allies and weapons of his own, and he wouldn't face this battle alone. Denny returned to his dorm with renewed purpose, ready to share the news with Celine and Eric. They would face the shadows of Loki together, and he was more than prepared for the fight ahead. The following day, Denny awoke with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. He couldn't shake the feeling that the dagger he had found was more than just a weapon. It was a key to understanding Loki's intentions. He hurried to the common area, where he found Celine poring over a scroll and Eric practicing some dagger throws against the wall. "Guys, you won't believe what I found," Denny exclaimed, holding up the dagger, its blade shimmering in the morning light. Celine's eyes widened. "What is that? Where did you get it?" "I found it in the weapons training room. It's a gift from Odin, I'm sure of it," Denny replied, a grin spreading across his face. "It feels powerful, like it has its spirit." Eric stopped mid-throw and walked over, inspecting the dagger closely. "This is incredible, but do you know what it can do? We should figure that out before we face Loki." "Agreed," Denny said, his excitement tempered by the moment's wait. "I think it's meant to help us understand Loki better. Maybe it holds secrets about his plans." Celine nodded, her expression serious. "We need to gather as much information as we can. If we can glimpse what Loki is planning, we might find a way to counter it." With a shared sense of purpose, they decided to visit the library, a vast repository of knowledge filled with ancient texts and scrolls detailing the myths and lore of the gods. Upon entering the library, they were greeted by the musty smell of parchment and the sight of towering shelves lined with books and scrolls. "Let's start with everything we can find on Loki," Celine suggested, pulling a hefty tome from the shelf titled The Trickster God, a Comprehensive Guide. "Sounds good. I'll search for anything that mentions his motivations or past schemes," Denny added, flipping through another book. Eric, ever the enthusiast, began rifling through the scrolls, looking for anything that stood out. "I'll check these older texts. Sometimes the answers lie in past stories," he said, his eyes gleaming. As they immersed themselves in the lore, the hours slipped away. Denny was engrossed in tales of Loki's cunning, alliances, and betrayals. "Something is interesting here," Celine called out after some time, her finger tracing a passage. "It says that Loki has a history of using half-breeds to do his bidding. He finds them more susceptible to his influence." Denny felt a chill run down his spine. "Like me," he murmured, contemplating the implication. "Does he see me as a pawn in his game?" Celine nodded, a frown on her face. "It seems that way. If he thinks you're vulnerable because of your human side, he might try to exploit that." "Then we have to ensure he can't," Eric said fiercely. "We need to show him that we're not just a collection of abilities or titles, we're a team." As they continued their research, they uncovered a passage that described a ritual Loki had once performed. A ritual that granted him power over others through manipulation and fear. "Guys, if Loki is planning to use this ritual again, we need to stop him before he gathers enough strength," he said. The urgency of their situation dawned on him. "Let's find out how we can counter it," Celine replied, flipping through the pages frantically. "If we can understand the ritual, maybe we can disrupt it." After what felt like hours of scouring the texts, Denny finally found a mention of a protective charm that could shield against Loki's influence. "Here it is," he exclaimed, pointing to the page. "This charm can help sever his connection to anyone he tries to manipulate. We need to learn how to create it." Eric leaned in closer, his eyes scanning the words. "We need specific materials, like herbs and a few magical artifacts. We should gather those right away." With their mission clear, they spent the rest of the afternoon gathering supplies from the library and consulting with Helga about the materials they would need. After they gathered everything, they returned to their common area and began to work on the charm. Denny felt a growing sense of urgency, the weight of the task ahead pressing on him. "I can help with the incantation," Celine said, her brow furrowing in concentration as she arranged the herbs. "We'll need to focus our energy on the charm to make it effective." As they worked, the atmosphere shifted. Denny could feel the tension in the air, a palpable sense of anticipation that was hard to ignore. Once the charm was complete, they stood back to admire their work, a small, intricately woven charm, glowing faintly with the energy they had poured into it. Denny picked it up, feeling a warmth radiate from it. "This could make a difference," he said, hope mingling with apprehension. "Now we just have to figure out how to use it when we confront Loki," Eric added, his eyes narrowed in determination. "I think it's time we confront the reality of our situation," Denny said, his voice steady. "Loki will come for us, and we need to be ready. We'll use this charm to protect ourselves and take the fight to him if we have to." Denny felt a sense of unity with his friends as the sun began to set, casting golden rays through the windows. "Tomorrow, we'll start refining our training even more. We have to be ready for whatever Loki throws our way," Denny declared. Resolve firm in his heart. Little did they know, Loki was already making plans, waiting in the shadows, biding his time until the moment struck. The following morning, Denny, Celine, and Eric gathered at the training grounds, their resolve strengthened by their acquired knowledge. The sun shone brightly, casting a warm glow over the lush landscape, but an underlying tension hung in the air, an unspoken acknowledgement of the impending confrontation with Loki. Denny could feel the energy of Gungnir at his side, a reminder of the responsibility he bore as the son of Odin. He took a deep breath, centering himself as he thought about their plan. "Today, we need to focus on combat scenarios and teamwork. We must ensure we can rely on each other when it counts." Celine nodded, her expression serious. "We've created the charm, but must still be prepared for Loki's mind games. He'll try to divide us, make us doubt each other." Let's start with some drills, Eric suggested, brandishing his daggers. We'll work on our attack formations and defensive maneuvers. We can't let ourselves get separated, especially if he tries to confuse us with illusions. The trio began their training with a series of sparring matches. Denny paired up with Celine, both wielding their weapons with precision and focus. They practiced various formations, learning to anticipate each other's movements. Denny felt a surge of pride as they executed complex maneuvers flawlessly, their connection growing stronger with every strike. "Great job, you two," Eric called out, taking a moment to catch his breath. "But remember, Loki will not play fair. He'll exploit every weakness. Which means we need to be aware of our surroundings at all times," Celine added, wiping sweat from her brow. "If we can maintain our focus, we can outsmart him." Just then, Helga approached, observing their training with a keen eye. "I'm impressed with your progress," she said, crossing her arms. "But I have a challenge for you. I want you to face an unexpected enemy." "What do you mean?" Denny asked, curious. Helga smiled mischievously. "I will unleash a few of Loki's minions upon you. They'll use their trickery to try and break your formation. Your goal is to work together and remain united." "Minions?" Eric echoed, a hint of excitement creeping into his voice. "Sounds like a fun challenge. Just remember, they'll use illusions and psychological tactics to confuse you," Helga warned, her tone turning serious. "Stay sharp and trust each other." With that, she disappeared, leaving the trio to prepare for the impending challenge. Moments later, a shroud of mist enveloped the training ground, and from the depths of the fog, shadowy figures began to emerge, Loki's minions. They were small, elegant creatures, their eyes gleaming with mischief and malice. "Let the games begin," one cackled, darting forward with surprising speed. "Stay together," Denny shouted, positioning himself protectively in front of Celine and Eric. As the minions charged, the trio quickly fell into formation, and Gungnir rose high. The minions began to split apart, creating illusions of themselves that multiplied in the mist, making it difficult to determine which targets were real. "Focus on the center," Celine called, her bow drawn taut as she aimed for one of the approaching figures. "If we can take out the leader, the others will likely disperse." Denny nodded, feeling the energy of the charm they had created pulse at his side. "Now, Celine." With a swift motion, Celine released her arrow, striking one of the minions and causing it to dissipate into a cloud of smoke. "Good shot! Keep it up!" Eric encouraged, throwing one of his daggers into the fray, which struck true and sent another minion vanishing into the mist. But the remaining minions surged forward, their laughter echoing around them as they began to circle. "You think you can defeat us? We are but shadows," one taunted, and the group felt a chill run through them. "Don't listen to them," Denny shouted, gripping Gungnir tighter. "Remember our training. Stick together." Suddenly, one of the minions darted toward Denny, and in a flash, it transformed into a mirror image of him, complete with Gungnir. "Can you tell which one of us is the real Denny?" it sneered, raising the spear mockingly. "Focus," Celine yelled, releasing another arrow that barely missed the doppelganger. "It's just an illusion." Denny felt a wave of doubt wash over him, the creature's taunt echoing in his mind. "Am I powerful enough?" He shook his head, dispelling the dark thoughts. "No, I am more than my lineage. I have my friends beside me." With renewed determination, he charged forward, confronting the illusion of himself. "You're nothing but a trick. I know who I am," he declared, striking the illusion with Gungnir. It shattered into 1,000 sparkling pieces, fading away. Eric and Celine quickly followed suit, taking down the remaining minions individually. They worked seamlessly, covering each other's backs and adapting their strategies. As the last minion fell, the mist dissipated, and Helga reappeared, clapping her hands in approval. "Excellent work. You have shown great teamwork and resilience. But remember, this was just a practice. The real challenge will be far more difficult." Denny felt relief wash over him, and his friends shared triumphant smiles. "We did it!" Eric exclaimed, slapping Denny on the back. "Yes, but we need to stay vigilant," Celine cautioned, her expression serious. "This was a good exercise, but it's only a taste of what's to come." "Speaking of which," Denny said, "I think we should start planning our next steps. We know Loki will come after us soon, and we must be ready for anything." "Let's meet later tonight and discuss our strategy," Eric suggested, gathering his weapons. We should brainstorm every possible scenario. As they returned to the common area, Denny felt a sense of unity and purpose settle over them. Their challenges had only strengthened their bond, and they were ready to confront whatever Loki had in store for them. Later that evening, as darkness enveloped Valhalla Prep, the trio gathered in their common area, the atmosphere charged with determination. Denny spread out the maps and texts they had gathered, his mind racing with possibilities. We need to consider how we'll use the charm we created, he began, pointing to a map section highlighting a potential battlefield. Loki may try to lure us into a trap. We have to be strategic. Celine leaned in, her finger tracing the map. If we set up defenses around this area, we can use the charm to protect ourselves while drawing him into a confrontation. He might underestimate our resolve. Exactly, Denny replied, feeling the adrenaline course through him. If we play our cards right, we can turn the tables on him. As they laid out their plans, Denny couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. A dark premonition gnawed at him, a sense that they were running out of time. Just then, a knock echoed through the door, startling the trio. They exchanged wary glances before Eric approached and opened it. Standing in the doorway was a cloaked figure, their face obscured by shadows. "I come with a message," the figure said, their voice low and gravely. "Loki is coming for you. Be prepared." Denny's heart raced as he stepped forward, his grip tightening on Gungnir. "Who are you? What do you want?" The figure lowered their hood, revealing a face that was both familiar and unsettling. "I am someone who knows Loki well, and I am here to help you prepare for what's to come." Denny's mind raced. Was this figure a friend? "What do you mean by help?" Celine asked cautiously, her eyes narrowing. The figure smiled enigmatically. "You have the strength within you, but need guidance to harness it fully. Loki is cunning, and he will not come at you directly. Instead, he will try to break you from within." With that ominous warning hanging in the air, the trio exchanged glances, uncertain of their next move. Denny felt the weight of responsibility settles heavily on his shoulders. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together, friends bound by a common goal. "Let's hear what this person has to say," Denny finally said, feeling the unyielding spirit of his friends beside him. The cloaked figure stepped inside, the door closing softly behind them. "Very well," they said, their eyes glinting with knowledge and intrigue. "Let's begin." The cloaked figure settled into a chair across from Denny, Celine, and Eric, the room's shadows wrapping around them like a protective shroud. Denny's heart raced as he studied the stranger's features, searching for any sign of deception. "Who are you? Who are you?" he demanded, his voice steady despite the tension in the air. "And how do you know about Loki's plans?" The figure leaned forward, revealing sharp features framed by dark hair. "My name is Ira," they replied, calm yet commanding. "I once walked alongside Loki, serving him as a spy and an advisor. I have seen his tricks firsthand." Celine crossed her arms, skepticism etched on her face. "And why would you want to help us? You were once aligned with him." Ira's gaze hardened, their eyes glinting like steel. "I left his service long ago. I realized the depths of his malice and the havoc he wreaks. He delights in chaos, and I no longer refuse to be a part of it." "All right, let's say we believe you," Eric said, his posture tense. "What do you know about what Loki is planning?" Ira took a deep breath, the shadows dancing around them as they spoke. "Loki intends to use a ritual to amplify his powers, drawing strength from the fears and doubts of others. He will seek out those who are vulnerable, people like you, Denny, and the bond you share with your friends. He will try to exploit any fracture within your group." Denny felt a chill at the mention of his name, the weight of the danger pressing down on him. "What can we do to stop him?" "There are ways to counter his influence," Ira explained, their voice low and conspiratorial. "But it requires more than just the charm you created. You must strengthen your connection to each other and face your fears head-on." Celine leaned forward, intrigued. "How do we do that? We can't just sit back and wait for him to attack." "No," Ira agreed. "You need to prepare. I can guide you in harnessing your inner strengths and confronting the shadows that linger in your hearts. We can develop your abilities and build a shield against Loki's manipulations." Denny felt a spark of hope ignite within him. "What do we need to do?" Ira straightened, their demeanor shifting from mysterious to commanding. First, we must delve into your fears. Each of you carries something that weighs you down, something Loki can exploit. You must confront, face, and turn it into your strength. Denny swallowed hard, uncertainty flooding his mind. And how do we do that? Through meditation and focused practice, Era replied. I will guide you through exercises that will help you confront your fears, unlock your potential, and solidify the bonds of friendship that you share. Only then can you stand united against Loki. Eric's brow furrowed as he considered Ira's words. And what happens if we fail? If we can't face our fears? Then Loki will have the upper hand, Ira stated, their tone grave. He will sow discord, and you will fall apart. But I believe you can do this. You've already shown great strength and resilience in your training. The trio exchanged glances, their expressions shifting from doubt to determination. Denny felt a swell of pride for his friends. They had faced challenges before, and they had always emerged stronger together. All right, let's do it, Denny said firmly. We'll face our fears and become stronger for it. Excellent, Ira replied, a glint of approval in their eyes. We'll start tonight. I'll teach you to channel your energy and focus on what holds you back. This will require complete trust in each other, so prepare yourselves. As the evening wore on, the group set aside their weapons and gathered in a circle, the atmosphere thick with anticipation. Denny could feel the moment's weight and the significance of what they were about to undertake. Era led them in breathing exercises, encouraging them to clear their minds and center their thoughts. Close your eyes, they instructed, their voice calm and soothing. Focus on your breath. Inhale strength. Exhale doubt. Denny followed the instructions, feeling the rhythm of his breath steady his racing heart. He could sense Celine and Eric beside him, their presence grounding him. Now, I want you to visualize your greatest fear, Ira continued, their voice a steady anchor in the darkness. What is it that haunts you? What holds you back? Denny took a deep breath, the darkness behind his eyelids swirling with images of uncertainty. He saw himself standing before Loki, powerless and alone, the weight of his lineage pressing down on him. The sense of being unworthy of Odin's legacy gnawed at him, as did the fear of failing his friends and himself. Let that fear rise within you, Era instructed. Acknowledge it, but do not let it consume you. Remember, you have the power to confront it. With those words, Denny focused on the fear, envisioning it as a shadow creeping toward him. But instead of retreating, he stepped forward, standing tall against it. I am not just Odin's son, he whispered, his voice firm and resolute. I am Denny Wyatt, and I choose my path. As he confronted the shadow, a surge of energy coursed through him. The fear began to dissipate, melting away into the ether. He opened his eyes to find Celine and Eric doing the same, their faces a mix of determination and triumph. Good, Era said, a satisfied smile on their lips. You've taken the first step. Now let's harness that power together. They moved on to the next stage of the exercise, focusing on channeling their energies as a united front. They closed their eyes again, drawing on their strengths discovered during the meditation. Denny felt a warmth spread through him as he connected with Celine and Eric, their energies intertwining like threads of light. Together, they created a shimmering barrier that pulsed with a vibrant glow, warding off the lingering shadows. As the session continued, Denny realized that this was more than just a training exercise. It was a reaffirmation of their friendship, a promise to stand by one another no matter their challenges. Hours passed, and when they finally opened their eyes, the room was filled with an electric charge of camaraderie. Denny felt invigorated, as if he had shed a weight he didn't even know he was carrying. Thank you, Ira, Denny said, feeling deeply grateful. I think we're ready to face whatever Loki has planned. Remember, it's not just about physical strength, Ira cautioned. Your greatest weapon is the bond you share. Trust in each other, and you will overcome. As they prepared to wrap up for the night, Denny couldn't shake the feeling that something significant was about to happen. The air was thick with anticipation, a storm brewing just beyond the horizon. Later that night, as they settled into their common area, the weight of their impending confrontation with Loki hung heavily over them. They exchanged stories and laughter, trying to keep the mood light, but the shadow of uncertainty lingered. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed outside, and the lights flickered ominously. Denny jumped to his feet, heart racing. What was that? Probably just a storm, Eric said, though his voice betrayed a hint of unease. But Denny wasn't so sure. It feels different, almost unnatural. As they stepped outside, the sky was a turbulent swirl of dark clouds, thunder rumbling ominously. The wind howled around them, carrying an unsettling chill. Something's not right, Celine murmured, her brow furrowed. Just then, the ground shook beneath them, and a flash of lightning illuminated the horizon, revealing a figure standing at the edge of the woods. Denny squinted, his heart pounding. Is that? As the figure stepped forward, the air crackled with energy, and a voice echoed through the storm, deep and mocking. Denny Wyatt! Come forth, I have a proposition for you. Denny felt a chill run down his spine. It was Loki, and he was here. Denny felt a surge of adrenaline as Loki's voice resonated through the turbulent night. The wind whipped around him, carrying with it the scent of rain and the unmistakable energy of magic. Denny stepped forward, heart pounding as he faced the god of mischief. Loki, he called out, trying to keep his voice steady. What do you want? Loki emerged from the shadows, a figure draped in dark robes that seemed to absorb the light around him. His eyes glinted with mischief and cunning, a smile playing at the corners of his lips. Ah, Denny Wyatt, the son of Odin, standing bravely before me. How quaint. Don't underestimate me. Denny shot back, gripping Gungnir tightly. I'm not afraid of you. Loki chuckled, a low, sinister sound that sent a shiver down Denny's spine. Fear is a powerful tool, my boy, and it's one I intend to use against you and your friends. He gestured towards Celine and Eric, who stood close beside Denny, their expressions a mix of determination and apprehension. What do you mean? Celine asked, her voice firm. We're not afraid of your games. Ah, but it's not about fear, is it? Loki replied, stepping closer, the wind swirling around him like a storm. It's about doubt. I'm here to offer you a choice, Denny, a chance to embrace your true destiny. Denny exchanged a wary glance with Eric and Celine. What are you talking about? Loki's smile widened, revealing a glimmer of teeth that seemed almost predatory. You've spent so long trying to prove yourself to your father, to everyone. But what if I told you that your true power lies not in trying to be like him, but in embracing the chaos within you? Denny felt his heart race as he grappled with Loki's words. You think I'd ever join you? Loki's laughter echoed through the air, a dark melody that chilled the trio. Oh, I don't need you to join me. I simply want to show you the truth. Embrace the chaos, and you will never feel inadequate again. The storm intensified, lightning flashing ominously above them. Denny clenched his fists, trying to focus. I'm not interested in your lies. I've learned to trust my friends and the strength we share. Ah, the bond of friendship, Loki mused, feigning contemplation. Such a fragile thing. But tell me, what will you do when that bond is tested? When I reveal your deepest fears to your friends, will they still stand by your side? Denny's breath caught in his throat, the weight of Loki's words settling heavily on his shoulders. He glanced at Celine and Eric, fear gnawing at him. What if Loki was right? What if they discovered his insecurities and turned away? Enough of this, Eric shouted, stepping forward. You're trying to manipulate us, but it won't work. We're stronger together than you could ever understand. Loki's eyes sparkled with delight. Ah, the brave knight steps forward. How noble of you, Eric. But do you truly believe that? The beauty of fear is that it can be rooted in truth. To prove your strength, you must face what you fear most. Denny's heart raced, realizing the challenge before them. What do you want us to do? He demanded, unwilling to back down. Meet me at the edge of the Veil of Shadows at dawn, Loki declared, his voice dripping with menace. Penitui, I will show you what it means to embrace your true nature. If you refuse, I will bring the darkness to your doorstep and lay bare your insecurities for all to see. With a flick of his wrist, a crack of thunder rumbled overhead, and Loki dissolved into the shadows, leaving only the echo of his laughter behind. Denny stood frozen for a moment, the weight of the moment crashing down on him. What just happened? He whispered, disbelief coursing through him. Hey, Loki's trying to manipulate us, Celine said, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. He knows how to get inside our heads. We have to prepare, Denny replied, a sense of urgency igniting. We can't let him win. Eric nodded, determination hardening his features. We must face him and show him we're stronger than his tricks. We'll confront our fears together. As they made their way back inside, the tension in the air was palpable. The storm outside mirrored the turmoil within Denny as he grappled with the uncertainty of their future. The looming dawn felt like a ticking clock, counting down to an inevitable confrontation with Loki. Once inside, they gathered around the table, their spirits low, but their resolve unbroken. We need a plan, Denny said, spreading out the maps and texts again. Loki thrives on chaos, and we must be ready for anything he throws at us. Celine leaned over the map, her brow furrowed in concentration. We can't just rush in blindly. We need to anticipate his moves and work together. Agreed, Eric added. If we stay united and trust each other, we can counter his tricks. Denny nodded, feeling a swell of pride for his friends. They were strong together, and he knew they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. Let's focus on what we can control. We'll work on our strengths and make sure we're ready. As the night wore on, they strategized, running through various scenarios and rehearsing their plans for the encounter at the Vale of Shadows. Despite the tension, a sense of camaraderie buoyed Denny's spirits. Just before dawn, they settled into a tense silence, the weight of what lay ahead hanging in the air. Denny couldn't shake the feeling of dread, the knowledge that they would have to confront their innermost fears and insecurities. Are you ready? Celine asked, her voice soft yet firm. Denny took a deep breath, looking at his friends. I am. We can do this together. With that, they set out into the breaking dawn, the first rays of sunlight piercing through the darkness. A thick fog hung in the air as they approached the Vale of Shadows, swirling ominously around them. Stay close, Eric warned, his voice low. We have to watch each other's backs. As they crossed the threshold into the Vale, the atmosphere shifted, an otherworldly energy enveloping them. The air grew tense, and the shadows danced at the edges of their vision. Loki, Denny called out, his voice echoing through the mist. We're here! A low, mocking laugh answered him, reverberating off the fog. Ah, my brave young warrior, I've been expecting you. Suddenly, the shadows began to swirl around them, forming images that flickered in and out of focus. Memories, fears, and insecurities. Denny's heart raced as he saw himself standing alone, his friends fading away, the weight of his lineage pressing down on him. Look at you, Loki's voice echoed from the darkness. Do you think they'll stand by you when they see who you truly are? No, Denny shouted, forcing himself to step forward to confront the darkness. I know who I am. I am Denny Wyatt, and I choose my destiny. With determination, he felt the connection to Celine and Eric beside him, their energies intertwining. Together, they formed a protective barrier against the encroaching shadows, their bond solidifying like steel. As the images of fear and doubt swirled around them, Denny turned to his friends. We can face this together. Always, Celine replied, her voice steady as she drew her bow, ready to combat the darkness. Let's show Loki that we're not afraid, Eric shouted, brandishing his daggers with fierce determination. With a newfound strength, the trio surged forward, confronting the illusions that threatened to tear them apart. Denny felt the weight of his fears begin to lift as they faced each challenge together, united against the shadows. As they fought against the darkness, Denny couldn't help but wonder what lay ahead. Loki was cunning, and this battle was far from over. But they stood firm together for now, ready to face whatever came next. This tale continues next time on Tales from the Shadows. So be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next part. Until next time, stay tuned, stay weird, and watch out for what lurks in the shadows.
This has been Tales from the Shadows, where the shadows speak the stories that will make you weak. Join us on this journey into the unknown. Tales from the shadows, where fear is shown. So subscribe and like, and don't be afraid to dive into the darkness where the shadows are laid.